All right, let's do a little tutorial on how to do cube 9. So similarly to cube 8, this cube is also based on cube 5. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take cube 5. Let's go ahead and make a copy of it just over here so we can use it as a reference because I want it to be exactly based on this model. So cube 5 is what's considered a planar model in that it's constructed out of planes in each dimension. So I have white planes, which represent, let's say, X, yellow planes, which represent Y, and blue planes, which represent Z, let's say. And so when we did cube 8, that was a cube which was based on lines. So we're using sticks there. So it was a linear model. Cube 9 is cube 5, but based on volume. So right now there's not any real volumes here. We have sort of implied volumes of X, Y, and Z, but nothing is truly volumetric. You know, if we really get down to it, these planes have to have some amount of volume in order for them to be visible, but conceptually this is a planar model. So cube 9 is a volumetric model. So as we discussed in cube 8, there are 8 total volumes in this particular model. Right, I have this volume of space and then the one below it, and then the same all the way around, right? So I have 4 on the top, 4 on the bottom. What I want to do conceptually is I want to make half of those volumes into solids and the other half into voids. So basically half will be solid, half will be void. Conceptually, a solid is something that's sort of filled up with, you can imagine it like concrete. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explode this group for just a second. And let's say that I choose like this top volume to be filled with concrete. You can imagine that I would just literally fill it up like this to the height here. And so now that one is a solid, the bottom one is a void. So what I want to do here is I want to look at it from the top, and if we look at it from the top, right, I have 4 sort of zones. Within each zone, I have a top and a bottom. So I want to choose at least one of those spaces from each zone to be a solid. So I need either this one or that one to be a solid. Here I need either this one or that one to be a solid. This one or that one to be a solid. And the opposite would then be a void. So I'm just going to kind of go through and kind of randomly choose some here. Let's say I'm going to fill that one up with concrete. I'm going to take this one and fill this one up with concrete. And then let's do, for the sake of them all being different, we'll fill that one up with concrete as well. So what I want to do here is I want to not have all of the top ones be solid and all of the bottom ones be void, or vice versa. I really need to vary whether I do the top or the bottom. It doesn't always have to change from each one, but we do need to make that choice. Now, what you'll see then is if I delete these blue and yellow ones, that I'm kind of left with these solids. There's a little bit of a gap here. That's just due to the fact that we constructed it out of planes, but there's a bigger issue. All right, so these 3, and if I just use push-pull here for a second on this surface, I can extend it to connect here. I can do the same thing here. So I'm going to use push-pull and extend it to connect, and then also here. Use push-pull and extend it to connect. So these 3 are in contact right there, but because I chose this one, you'll see that it's sort of floating. It's not actually in contact with the other volumes. So that's kind of an issue. So I'm going to need to undo all of this stuff, and I'm going to have to reevaluate the solids that I have chosen here. So let's go back all the way to 0, so to speak. And what, again, we want to do is we want to make sure that all of them are sort of touching each other, right? And this is really important in that these 4 white planes are at different heights. So I'm still going to go ahead and make this one a solid, but I might have to make this bottom one a solid so that they would be in contact with each other. I think the rest should be okay. So I'm going to go ahead and actually do the top one here. So I have like 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom. And so now when I delete those, you'll see that these 4 are all in contact with each other, right? So I'll go here, extend that to there so they're touching. I'll come over here, edit this one using push-pull to make sure they're touching there, and use push-pull to ensure they're touching here. So by doing that one, these ones should now be all touching each other. Okay. So conceptually, this is what we want, although we couldn't literally build this unless we 3D printed it, which we're not going to do right now. But we really want to have these things merge together. And you'll see that since I deleted the yellow and blue planes, there's not any planes in this model. Everything is 100% volumetric. Now, there are a couple of rules here. So if I have two solids next to each other, they're going to blend together to become one solid. Now, right now, because I made them into groups, they are, sort of separated. So one way that I could do this is just by selecting everything here, right-clicking and exploding them. So now I can use my eraser and just go back in and sort of erase these lines between them. I go here, here, and I think we're good. So now when I triple click, you'll see that it gets everything in there and I don't have any sort of lines between them. So you'll see in this conceptual version here of Cube 9 that two adjacent solids that are touching each other have blended together to become one, so that's one big surface. Same thing here, right? This is one big surface that I erase those edges, one big surface here that I erase those edges, all that sort of thing, right? The same is true for the void. So I did have a void space here, then I had a void up here, and you'll see that there's no wall that is like dividing them, that's separating them. That's what we want, right? Same thing here. There's like a hole that is created here, and there's a hole between them. There's a hole between this one and this one, right? So we're getting these spaces which are sort of continuous, right? There's a flow from this void to this void to this void to this void and to that one. So it goes throughout the entire model. And the same is true for the solids, right? They sort of flow from here to here to here to here. This is all well and good, so I'm going to leave this as a reference here. Let's go ahead and make that a group. But if we were really going to model this physically, we wouldn't be able to just simply just have this thing exist, right? We would have to construct it out of boards, just like we did here. And so the way we're going to model it is also going to be utilizing the sort of board method. So again, this is a good place to start. And actually what I'm going to do is explode this again. And that's going to allow me to just select these boards and sort of move them around and reuse them. This is a good template for you to reference, so you can keep it just as white, it's fine. But I know by looking at this then that I have this bottom, this top, and this top as my solids. All right, so let's actually get going in terms of how we model it. Oh, and by the way, you don't have to use the same ones that I did. In fact, I would encourage you to use different ones and try and create an interesting Cube 9 that's different than mine. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Here, remember, this is a solid, right? This sort of portion here, which is this volume. Let's go ahead and create it using the board. So the simplest way here is just to take this one. I know that this is sort of the bottom limits of my volume, sorry. So I'm just going to take it and copy it straight up. So now I have the top and the bottom created. I now need, let's say, the left and the front. So to do that, I'm going to take one of these boards here. I'm going to copy it to where there's no clipping. It's too long, so we're going to use scale in this case and just kind of push this up. This is a design decision, so in Cube 9, you're going to be making a lot more decisions in terms of joinery than you have in sort of any other model, because you're having to edit things and create these solids. So I'm going to take this one, copy it here. This one is too big in 2 dimensions, so I'm going to take this, scale it to here, and go to the bottom, and scale that one to match there, right? And so again, you could have chosen sort of a different joinery configuration, so I'll show you what I mean. I can go here and edit this to push that there, and then I'll edit this one and push it here, right? It still works, it's the same volume, it's the same solid, but it's just a different joinery method. So I kind of liked the white sort of going all the way on top of them. I think it's a little bit cleaner, so I'm going to keep it just like that, right? Same sort of decision that you could make here, right? I could have had this yellow one be the short one and then the blue one be sort of the long one, so to speak. This is personal preference at this point, so again, design decisions. I think I'm going to keep it just because this yellow one goes all the way to the edge. Okay, cool. So this one is a solid. That one's done now. Now, I'm going to go ahead and work my way around in that this is a solid, and then I know that this one is also a solid, so I'm referencing this as well. And so let's go ahead and start to construct this one. So here, I need a blue board. Well, let's actually get a whiteboard. Sorry. Let's go ahead and get the top and the bottom here. So I'm going to copy this all the way up, just like that. So I've now defined the sort of vertical limits here. Let's take a blue one, copy this over here to where it's under it. Again, it's not the right size, so I'm going to use the scale tool here and scale it to that edge. It's too tall, so I'm going to grab from the bottom. Okay. And again, we don't want to have any clipping, so I pushed it to the top of that board. So I've defined sort of this, let's say, front edge here. Now I need the left edge, so I'm going to take this yellow one, and I'm going to grab it from here, there. Kind of do a little bit of adjusting here. Let's use push-pull just to show that we can do it. Grab from here, push it there, from the bottom, push it up to there. Okay, pretty good. Not too hard there with enclosing that space. Okay, so I'm just going to continue to work my way around. So I've done two. I do have this bottom one, so let's go ahead and let's do that bottom one there. Again, I'm going to start by doing the top and the bottom of it, and then we'll take one of these blues. Copy it here. Again, be careful of where you grab these things from. Just got to be sort of mindful of that when you're modeling at all times here. So there we go. Take this one, copy it there, scale tool, and you could sort of start from scratch with these if you really wanted to and make them. I just find that it's a little bit easier to use the assets that I already have. Okay, cool. Done there. And so the last one is actually this sort of bottom left one. Okay, let's take this board. I'm going to go ahead and just copy. Oh, sorry. Let's do the top and the bottom. So I keep getting ahead of myself here. Copy that there. I'm going to take this one just because it's a little bit smaller. Could have used the big one as well, but and so I'll take this. Again, make sure you get the middle portion there. Take the small one as well, grab it from there, make a copy. Oh, wrong point, that's okay. No worries. And we'll just scale this up to really fill this space in. All right, cool. So we're in pretty good shape here, but I've only really modeled the solids, let's say, right? I still am left with these planes, which are really separating like this void, remember, from this void. So if I look back here at this model, right, you can see that those two voids here blend together, which is what we want here in this model. So how do I do that? Well, the easiest way is just to sort of scale this down and then copy it straight up. So I'm going to use the scale tool, push it down to there, which is sort of the upper limits there of this solid. And then I'll take this and copy it back up, right? And it looks kind of weird because I have two of them on top of each other. So in this case, I'll go ahead and edit it just so we can see it a little bit better and then use push-pull. And I'm not going to push it to here because I don't want to separate them. The whole point is to open them up. So I pushed it up to sort of the lower limits there of that shape. Okay. All right, looking pretty good. Although, look, I got a weird hole here. So we'll come back to how to fix that here in a minute. But for right now, I've now created this opening, which is what we want. So I need to go down here, do the same thing, closely examine what's going on here. In this case, I just have this yellow one, which is not a big deal. So I'm just going to simply just push it up. I don't need to make any copies or anything because I don't have one on top of the other. Okay, so now I've opened this up. Come here. Okay, we're running into a similar issue than before. So I'm going to take this, use push-pull, push it up so that I get that opening. But now I'm missing this one. So I could either take this copy or I already have one that's sort of the right size here. So I'm going to actually take this here. It's too long, so I'll use push-pull and just fix that joint there. Okay, so last one here. This one, let's go ahead and just push it down for the sake of difference. Make sure it doesn't align, right? So we get a full rectangular prism. And I still need this one up here, so there's a couple ways I could do this. I could copy that one up, or just copy another yellow one. It's up to you. Just just be, again, mindful of where it should go. So this one's sort of a puzzle piece. It should fit right there. Scale this down. And in this case, this one really should go down like all the way to here, right? Okay, so I've opened all of my voids up now, right? Now we are still running into an issue here, right, where we have a hole. And in fact, I kind of have like two boards here, and we'll talk about how to fix this, but in the meantime, what I'm gonna do is I wanna sort of close this off. So one way that I could do it is I could create another board and sort of put it there, and I'll show you what that looks like. But put it right there, and then I kind of resize this to be right scale. Let's see, reference point there. Okay. And then, so it's getting a little tricky. I'm having to sort of move my camera and pan and do all kinds of stuff. And that works pretty well, except, right, we're running into this issue where we have these seams. So I think the best way to solve this then, because in reality, let me just delete this for a second. If I delete that board, this really would all be one giant blue board. This one plus this one plus this one, right? If you were to cut it out of boards, you would cut out this big shape. So that's what we want to do here. So I have these three selected. All I need to do now is just right click and hit explode. And this is really critical that you have everything else as groups, otherwise everything is going to sort of merge together. But what I can do now is I can just use the eraser tool and come in here and erase those edges, right? So let's go ahead, and now that I've exploded it, let's go ahead and triple click on it to get all of them, right click, and now make that a big group. So I'm still running into some issues, and there's sort of a reason why I made this a group. So I'm gonna go ahead and edit it, and I need to sort of orbit my camera to where I'm inside of the model here, so it's a little bit tricky here, but now I'm inside. I'm just gonna go ahead and erase those edges there on the inside of it, right? And so again, I'm gonna sort of zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, zoom in until I'm inside, okay? And there's really an edge there. You probably can't see it, but there was an edge there. So I'll show you what I mean. If I take this thing out, looks like I didn't get it there, but there's an edge here that we really want to erase. So, you know what, in fact, let's just move this guy up for a second, just so we can see it, all right? And so I'll edit this and then erase that, so it's just one big surface there, right? So now we're in shape. While this is up here, I might as well do the same thing for these two yellow ones, right? These two yellow ones would really be constructed out of the same board, right? Although probably don't need them to be that long, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, but that's okay. What we're gonna do is, in this case, do the same thing, select both of them, explode, come in here with the eraser. Let's go ahead and make it a group real quick. Again, now I have both of them in the same thing. Let's pull this one out for a second, just so I can see there. Edit it and erase that edge, right? So now I just have one sort of continuous surface there. Okay, so looking pretty good. I just need to sort of move these things back into place. Again, that's the benefit here of digitally modeling, is that I can literally just pull these things apart from each other, and there's no worries. So, okay, so those are resolved, but we have some interesting issues here. Right? So if you're really going to model this with actual boards, you probably wouldn't cut like this square, leave a little 1/16 gap, and then cut this board. A better practice would be to just create one sort of big like L-shaped blue piece, which is what we're going to do here. So how do we do this? Well, basically need to get rid of this portion of the yellow. So this yellow, I have some wall here that I need, but I don't need the wall on the inside. So the way to do this is just to edit this. Again, this is going to be a design decision here. I think what I'll do is I'll draw a line from here to here, just to sort of split this into two parts. And then I can just use push-pull on this portion and push it back to there. So it doesn't look any different over here, but here on this front edge, it's now freeing up that space. Okay. So this is doing a couple of things. It's leaving a gap between the blue, but it's also leaving a gap between the yellow. Right? So we're gonna have to resolve both of these. So again, I think the best way to do this is probably just to use push-pull, pull this guy there. I'm gonna double click here and then just double click there because it's the same distance. And then I'm going to select these two blues because these are the two that I want to combine. Right click, explode them. Then I can come back in and just erase that edge. Right? And so now they're sort of merged together. Let's go ahead and triple click on it and make it a group. Same thing here with this yellow, or this white, sorry. I could do it this way. I'll show you a different way as well. Let's go ahead and just delete this. A simpler way might be to actually go in here and just kind of what we did in the playground, just add a line here. I can just use push-pull and pull that out to there. So it's just one continuous surface. It makes my life a lot easier. Okay. So yeah, looking pretty good there. I've resolved that surface. I need to do the same thing up here and here. So I think in this case, I'm just gonna simply delete this guy. Use this one. This one just goes down to there. So I'm gonna use push-pull. Push it to there. Here, I'm gonna just extend this all the way. So now it's just one big surface, right? And then let's go ahead and resolve this issue. So again, this is sort of a design decision here. I think I may have pushed it too low, so let's push it there. I'm actually gonna just delete this blue one and do our method earlier where I just simply draw a line. Let me make sure, yeah, okay. I'm at that intersection there, so that I've split this. So now I can use push-pull. Pull to there. Now I've resolved those issues that you would have if you were really going to physically model it, and we're like 99% there, right? At this point, these are sort of nitpicky aesthetic things with how I'm going to create these joints, right? So like for instance, this white piece up here, notice on this side, it extends all the way to the edge versus on this side, it stops sort of early. It'll be a little bit easier if I just keep these things consistent, I think, if I were really going to model this. So again, this is just me playing around with joints. So I'm gonna go ahead and edit this blue one and just push it down to the thickness of the white. I'll just go ahead and do the same thing for this yellow one. So I'm gonna double click because it's the same distance, double click with push pull. So I push them all down, and now I can just extend these to where they're on top of it, right? So now I have one clean surface there on the top. And so I think it's a good idea to just keep that logic throughout the whole model. So I'm gonna have basically the white pieces extend all the way to the edges. So running into an issue then here and here. So what I can do in this scenario is take the blue here, push it down to there, double click here and extend the white. But look, we're running into a clipping issue there. So I can't just simply extend it. So I just gotta add that little line there at the intersection there. Now I can pull it to there, right? So that piece may look a little weird, but I would rather it be following sort of the same logic as before. So same thing here. I need to add a line there, just push pull and just extend it there. So again, the white piece is completely on top of the yellow and blues. It looks pretty good on the bottom, I think here. All right, so issues here as well. So let's go ahead and just push this guy up to the thickness there. Do the same thing with the yellow. By the way, I'm using spacebar and P a lot for shortcuts. I would really try and memorize those as much as you can. It just saves you some time. I'm not going over here and like clicking on any tools at all. It's just speeding up my workflow. Okay. All right. Issue here as well. So let's go ahead and fix that. There. Double click. Okay. Similar thing here. Now, I did want to point this out. So I'm pushing this thing up, right? So I'm basically shrinking it by pushing it this way. So if I push it there, and then I try to do the same thing, if I double click on here, it's also going to shrink that. So you might think that it would extend it, but in fact, if I keep double clicking, it's getting smaller. So I'm actually having to sort of manually pull that one. Okay, in terms of the white, they look pretty good. I think cleaning up the yellow and blue logic as well would be helpful. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this guy just for a second. I don't really need him anymore anyways. And so I'm going to switch my camera type here to parallel projection. And then I'm going to go to like a side view here. Okay, so here's my cube from the side. If I go to the top view, it's kind of nice because I get those white surfaces all sort of showing, right? If I didn't do what I did before, you would see some yellows and blues. But, you know, if I orbit to like one of the sides like this, right, we're seeing a mix of sort of yellows and blues, which is fine, but I think showing these a little bit clearer, this is the back view, right? Okay, yeah. So showing these a little bit clearer and having the same logic, I think, would help. This is just, again, nitpicky construction stuff. So switch back to perspective real quick and zoom out here. So I think what I am seeing here is that like the blue is extending all the way to the edge where the yellow is sort of inserted between the blues. I'm just going to follow that same logic around the model. So for instance here, not following that logic because the yellow is going all the way to the edge. So the simple way to do this is to just take this yellow and do basically what we were doing with the white by just pushing it in, and then I'll come in here and edit the blue and have that one extended there, right? So now we're seeing that blue edge all the time, and I'm seeing the blue edge there as well, right? So it's just a little bit more consistent. So issue here as well, right? This yellow is going all the way to the edge. I'm going to fix that. So I'm going to push this in to there, double click, not that one, and there we go. So again, these are construction issues that you might run into if you're really going to construct a building though, right? You want to have some sort of clear logic between these things. So I'm just going to go through and kind of clean those up to where the blue is always sort of going to the edge. So issue here on the other side, the opposite side. So again, pretty easy fix. It just, you know, takes a little bit of time. These are these details that you want to sort of be starting to think about when you're constructing stuff. So same thing here. Push that in there, double click. Oop. All right, looking good to me, right? So it's much cleaner. It's not sort of so random. So it's nice if you go to like this front elevation, right? Like I'm only seeing blue and white, right? And then from this side, I'm always seeing all three of them, right? And then the blues are perfectly aligned, and it just looks better, right? Especially if I go to like a parallel projection like that, right? Really clean. So when you're doing your sort of construction documents, or you know your pieces, so to speak, that you would laser cut or anything like that, these are just going to be much easier for you to logically figure out in terms of how to construct it. Not to mention the fact if somebody else is going to build this, it'll be a lot easier. So yeah, I think that does it for Cube 9.